I wish that I could fly into the sky very high, just like a dragonfly. I fly above the trees, over the seas, in all degrees, to anywhere I please.
Good evening, everybody. And here we go again. Actually, I shouldn't say hopefully. Tonight is actually going to be a very informative show. We brought in a special guest. I'll introduce her shortly. It's been quite a busy week, at least for me. I don't know about anybody else. Somehow I got roped into doing way too many shows this week, but whatever. And how was your guys this week, Ben?
Busy, like you said, out of the weather and the heat. I'll bet you too, Doug, eh?
It's been busy and it's been hot.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I'm not complaining. We need the heat.
Yeah. But now we need the rain.
Yeah.
Now that'll come on Tuesday.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to introduce our special guest tonight. She's appeared on our show once before, and as always, she brings a wealth of knowledge with her, and we're always happy to have her here. So I'd like to introduce her once again, and the one, the only. I'm going to bring in Caitlin. How you doing?
I'm well, thanks. I'm doing well. I like that intro. I should get you to do my voicemail recording or something too.
So you've been busy today.
Yeah. I've done probably the last two flight reviews that I'm gonna do before this baby comes, but that's flight review 97 and 98, I think. So
Ooh.
if the weather cools off, then I'm gonna try and get two more in just so that I can say that I've done 100 flight reviews. But
There
it
you
was,
go.
I'm sweating still. So
A little notch in the belt, eh?
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So anyway, what do we want to go with first? Do we want to do the geofencing first, or do we want to do that last? I don't care.
Up to you.
Actually, let's since we held it off, let's get into what we kind of held off doing the show last week, but we'll bring that in, and we're brought up in the group there with these questions, and to make a long story short, I'm knowledgeable, but I much prefer to have an expert that if anybody brings up any questions or anything like that, then Caitlin here will definitely have the answers, or I'm pretty sure she will. I don't want to put you on the spot too much, Caitlin, but
If I don't have the answer, then I'll be able to point you in the right direction. How's that sound?
yeah, that's good. Anyway, first question wants to run through on getting an SFOC and paperwork, emergency procedures required, and getting clearance from the airport. The person is an advanced flyer, but unfortunately, it sounds like he has forgotten some of that stuff. And I think he kind of wants to know the procedures of getting set up for flying in controlled airspace.
Yeah, and I think it's a fair question because it's something kind of strange about the process for advanced is that you get asked to walk someone through how to get approval to fly in controlled airspace when that's not something that you've been allowed to do up until that point. So fair question. So I'll start with getting clearance. It says from an airport. I'm going to talk. I can go like to that level of detail, but just controlled airspace in general. So that's where the NAV Canada flight authorization request comes in. And if you just Google that flight authorization request, it will come up. That's a form that you fill out wherever you are in Canada. Includes all the details for your flight, all your contact information, and even some things about your procedures, what the drone looks like and that kind of thing. And then you confirm you're not a robot, submit that to NAV Canada, and it'll go to the closest, I believe the closest flight information center. And so for Albertans, that'd be the Edmonton FIC. They will take a look at it. They'll take your long and lat and the radius that you specified and the altitude that you specified, and they'll plug that into Google Earth. And they've got this highly detailed map where they've got all the airspace on it, but even more than that, the towers have even given up sections of their control zone and are like, yeah, whatever, it's below 400 feet, that far out, I don't care to know about it. You guys can approve it. So that's why you want to be really like as stringent as you can when you're talking about radius and altitude for your flights. So if you don't need a 1 nautical mile radius, you just need 100 feet, just put 0.01 nautical miles or whatever it is that you require. Because if you keep it nice and tight, then you might be able to get approval directly from the FIC. And I've gotten approval in 7 minutes from Kamloops. Matt, I think it was Matt from N3, Matt Johnson. He said that in Alberta or in Montreal, he got it in 6 minutes. So he's currently winning. But it takes like no time at all to get feedback if you're like low level, tight radius, or even if you're not sure if you're in controlled airspace or not, they'd rather have you submit a request and be approved because you're in Class G than not see that request at all. So never hesitate to submit one. They don't mind. Plus, I think there's probably something where they get more funding from within NAV Canada, the more applications that they have to deal with. That's me totally speculating. I don't know if that's an actual thing, but I know they like airports that have more movements get more funding. So it didn't seem too out of the ordinary for me. So you fill the form, goes to the email inbox, gets plotted on a map. If it's something that they can approve right away, you would email it right back. It says, you're good to go. Here's your authorization number. If you have a transponder, turn it off. And then if it's something that's going to maybe be a conflict and the tower has to approve it, then it's going to go to the tower. You'll get kind of looped in at that point via email. They'll maybe ask for some more details, but probably will just say, I want you to call me at this number before you take off. And it's going to be the tower emergency number that you find in the comm section of the CFS. And then call us when you land, especially if you've requested something from like 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Because you're not sure when you're actually going to be flying. You're just doing a bunch of shooting that day. Then they'll want to know like more specifically so they can keep other aircraft out of that area, or at least can give them a heads up that you're going to be flying below them. So that's the general process for flying in controlled airspace. If you're actually going to be on airport property, then you would need to contact whatever that airport authority is, and that you'd find in the operator section of the comm. So you'd call them, and that's who you get your property permission from. And then you'd also, of course, need the airspace permission if it's control one. But you can have airports in uncontrolled airspace, and you can have controlled airspace that's not associated with an airport. So they're not always the same thing. I think that's all with that one. And then there's 2 other questions kind of in that same comment. I'm just reading.
Yeah, it's kind of in the same realm. Benjamin was asking about flying over events and stuff like that. And I think it's more of because flying over events is pretty kind of specialized, because unless you've got a drone that's certified for flying over people, you're not going to get much chance of getting that approved, correct?
Yeah, if it's actually like over the event, over people. I mean, there's some debate about whether a Mavic Mini, if that's like inherently hazardous, being over people, and therefore something that you can't do because then it contravenes 900.06 with the Mini.
Yeah.
Or if you have a safe area that you can kind of ditch to, if that makes it then okay. So you might be able to pull it off with that. But one cool thing that I found out was if you can have a secured spot to your flight that's 100 feet laterally away from an event, then your flight operation isn't considered requiring an SOC for participating at the event.
Yeah.
So you can maintain that 100-foot buffer. And so especially if it's something where you're just like going up and taking a picture of a concert or something, then that's okay. You don't need an SOC for the event. But if it's going to be something where you're, going down like riding along the cyclists that are racing or something like that, then you're going to need to get an SOC for that, because it would be considered a publicly invited event.
Yeah. We had an interesting thing last, actually it would have been spring, but Fernie held kind of a snow fest.
Oh yeah.
In Fernie, BC, and one of my cohorts was invited to, actually it was the company got invited to do the aerial coverage on that. And we actually had Transport Canada inspectors show up there. And his opinion was, because they decided rather than going through a bunch of loopholes, that they would use Mavic Minis. And when he checked out what they were doing, he said, because he asked the question, like, what are you flying up there, right? He said, oh, it's a Mavic Mini. He says, oh, okay. And he turned around and left. I think it's up to each individual person is going to bring in a different interpretation. So,
and what they had for breakfast, and what they got on, and
yeah. Whether or not they missed their spouse's anniversary, things like that.
And then there was a comment in here too about emergency procedures, and this is one that I get to talk about a lot because of the flight reviews. And so that's in CAR, I should have looked this up, 901.23, that lists the 6 emergencies that you need to have a procedure for. With something like most DJI products or most kind of like prosumer, off-the-shelf kind of drones, a lot of the procedures that you'll see there will kind of overlap. So you'll have something that might be like lost link, kind of feeds into flyaway, kind of stems from control station failure, or I've seen even people that have flight termination and RPAS failure under the same procedure steps. I think there is a way to, my personal preference, and it goes kind of in line with what's in the AIM, but I also helped write the AIM, so that might be why. The section where it talks about each individual emergency procedure, flight termination can be very different than an RPAS failure, but it could also be a kind of RPAS failure, like it could kind of lead into it. So the way that I've structured my emergency procedures is to say, like, if you get to pass these troubleshooting points and it's still an issue, it becomes this other thing, reference this other procedure. So they all kind of like, not all of them, but they talk to each other.
Yeah.
You don't need to have things repeated throughout. Like, it should be like troubleshooting items for the specific situation that's happening, and then it might kind of bleed into something else. But a flight termination could be return to home. It could be a landing at a distance or landing at a spot that you didn't intend to. You're just terminating the flight. Could be a parachute. It's just something that's not
in the game plan.
Yeah. And I mean, it could be, these are the conditions under which the parachute works and it doesn't. But I do think that it's different than an RPAS failure, especially with once you get out of multi-rotor, because then it could be a glide or something like that for fixed wing too.
Yeah. So, do you guys at Coastal offer any kind of refreshers or anything for advanced, or?
We will. So I don't know if you saw yesterday, we came out with the pre-sale for the next thing that we've been working on.
The recurrence?
It's not recurrency training yet. That'll be coming out towards the end of the year, because the earliest people can start expiring is January.
Yeah.
So until then, we just have kind of like, we know what we're going to do. It's just kind of been shoved off to the side while we get these other pro courses launched. So we just launched the first of 3 pro courses that are coming. And so that's what we've been focusing on the last little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause, that recurrence is starting to come to people's minds, because it's not that far in the distant future for some people. I know, like I'm up in February
Yeah.
February, March, something like that. So,
So Coastal's going to have some like an online program available, kind of meshes with everything else that we've done. But the other thing is Unmanned Systems Canada is going to host a recurrency seminar in conjunction with their conference, and that's at the beginning of November.
yeah.
So that'll be another option for folks too.
Yeah, but that's going to be viral this year by the sounds of it. So
It'll be all online. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be unfortunately not in Calgary. I was looking for an excuse to get out there, but I'd also have a like 5-week-old at that point, so I might not have made it to the conference this year. So
yeah, that's probably not a good time to travel, is it?
yeah, especially in pandemic times.
Yeah. Anyway, we're going to get into a little bit on geofencing, which is kind of not just a good topic for us, but for anybody that's flying DJI drones. And I don't know about you, Caitlin, but I get 2 or 3 or 4 sometimes PMs a week on geofencing issues. And can you help me out with this? Or what am I doing wrong? Or can you get them to change this or whatever? It's like, well, no, I can't do anything to change it. I might be able to educate you. So, but that's as far as that goes. This morning, Lonnie was trying to do something, and I'm going to let him explain it. So it's all yours, Lonnie.
Well, what I was trying to do this morning was with the Mini. I was just going to take a picture of the building where my office is, because my ex-boss owns it. So I was going to do an aerial shot, maybe go up about 30, 40, 50 feet, take a shot and come back down. And I knew it's in the landing pathway of the new runway at the Calgary airport. But I figured with the Mini, maybe they would allow me to unlock and fly it. But no, it wouldn't even start up at all. So I went and looked for the authorization link and everything else. I think one time I got a screen that came up, looked for a password, and the other one, other times it just came back and said, I think it was too many requests or something like that, and it just stayed there. So it never really did anything. So I give up because people started showing up in the parking lot, and I didn't want vehicles in the picture. So, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it was because we're right in that path of landing.
Yeah, and you're not the only person by any stretch that's had any issues. Earlier this week, I was dealing with somebody who was doing a thermal survey for a solar farm, and it was real interesting because it took a while to get everything kind of straightened out. He was outside of a control zone. He was kind of in between 2 control zones, but the whole flight was outside of any control zones, outside of the geofencing, but he got a geofence lock that no matter what he did, he couldn't get that removed. And this was, everything went through Nav Canada, was coordinated with the airport involved, because he wanted to, keep them in the loop of what was going on. And upon closer examination, it was because zone he designated, there was about 50 feet of that were within the glide slope of that airport. And even though it was coordinated with the airport, and they said, yeah, we're not going to use that runway anyways today. So But either way, he couldn't get the geo unlock, and it took literally 8 hours of phone calls and emails with DJI before they finally did an unlock for him. And that's, to me, that's kind of atrocious. Like if it's a coordinated flight and you've got all your approvals and stuff, you shouldn't have to go through the hoops like that. But what are your thoughts on that, Caitlin?
Yeah, I ran into something similar. We had our we got approval to fly over our sister company's helicopters, and they were all parked outside their hangar, which is obviously at an airport, and got airport permission, got airspace permission, got our the no-fly zone lifted for the Mavic 2, the Mavic 2 Pro that I was flying, and then another guy wanted to fly the Mavic Mini to film me flying the Mavic 2 over the helicopters, and it took me a while to get the controller to sync to the drone to unlock the drone, and it was actually I'm not totally sure what I did that actually made it work. If I had to do it again, it would be kind of just guessing again. But I followed the steps that were kind of laid out. And then kind of out of desperation, I just tried to start the motors, and then it all synced through and the motor started, which they weren't doing before. But we never got the Mavic 2 flying. Even though the airport that we were flying at was the blue zone, it wasn't even a red restricted area. It was just the blue area. Pitt Meadows, for whatever reason, just has the blue over it rather than the red areas, and it wouldn't start at all. So
this morning, kind of in regards, and I've kind of got a little bit more information, but this morning I had a good chat with Brendan Schulman. He's the Vice President of Policy and Legal Affairs at DJI, and initially, my question was, why can they not make the geofencing so that it reflects the country's regulations rather than a blanket? Because certain countries have different rules and other countries have their own. And for example, with the Mini, because it's a sub 250, we're dealing with 900.06 and very little else other than that common sense, and I said, you guys can build these wonderful drones with all these technology. Why can you not have the DJI Fly app or whatever app? Why can they not have it look at your location and look at what you're flying and have that as a reference towards whether it's a go or a no-go, right? And I got really interesting answer is that it's a global system based on ICAO principles. In other words, International Civil Aviation Organization principles. So as I said, they've kind of built a blanket policy that covers all countries everywhere regardless, and that is really kind of a shame because sorry, I'm just referring to my notes here, but there's 3 different organizations that had input on this, and not a single one of them is Canadian. So you've got the FAA, the UAS safety team, and ACI-NU Blue Ribbon Task Force. Ever heard of any of those other than the FAA?
yeah, I kind of see those letters sound familiar, but
So make a long story short, it's not going to fly, literally, because they've set this blanket policy, and I have always been a big fan of geofencing, but that's starting to change, because you should be building this to also suit the customer as well. And if your regulations go beyond what the regulations are of that country, now all of a sudden you decide that you're legislating what we can do, which to me is wrong in principle. So, but I'm finding out that you were mentioning the red zones and stuff like that. The toughest ones to actually get the unlock is the gray zones. And the gray zones are designated as the flight glide paths for any of the runways. And those are the ones that you have got to work really long and really hard to try and get an unlock. That solar farm that was trying to get surveyed. That's what the issue was there, because it was in that gray zone. Had it been in any other zone, they would have done it in a heartbeat. But no, they just weren't happy.
Interesting. And that's even with the drone staying below the height of the wind farm house.
Pardon me?
Was that drone staying below the height of the wind farm?
I don't know whether it's your mic or whether I've just got bad connection, but
I'm getting a bit of feedback, so I don't have my headphones today.
no, you're perfect now.
Okay, that's better. I was wondering if it was like, if it was altitude dependent, like if the drone was going to stay below the tallest obstacle.
It is right from ground zero to wherever. And yeah, so you couldn't even get clearance if you only wanted to do 20 or 30 feet, it ain't happening. So, but
Well, thanks for looking into that.
yeah.
So, hey, Lauren, while we're still on this, I'm going to see if you can see this. This is approximately where I was trying to take off from today.
No, can't see it. Turn your screen a little bit. We're getting glare. Turn it to
okay.
your left. No, that's even worse.
Sorry. Miguel, it's closer? No.
So kind of blue zone between the reds.
Yeah, it's kind of in the blues area, right? So
yeah.
And actually there is no runway shown where I was.
Really?
No.
Yeah, they should have done the unlock for you then. But yeah. And also he said, and I'm going to quote this literally, we've also staffed up to unlock with you within 30 minutes, but in most cases it's within 5 minutes. The extra steps are worth the safety benefit. If the unlock is not working, it's usually a technical error, but most technical issues are user error, such as entering the wrong serial number or the wrong DJI account, because the account that you try to do the unlock from and the serial number have to match, or they won't do the unlock.
Right.
So that makes sense. That makes sense. I sent you a picture of that.
Probably
So
as you
Doug,
being
you're
that
sitting off
close to the
full of-
runway, money.
What's that?
Probably as you being that close to the runway, the glide slope, you're right at the very end of it, so that's why they're not giving you any height or allowed to take off there.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But like I say, it's right in line with the new runway. But
yeah,
according to the map, it doesn't show the runway there, right? It only shows the one over the golf course.
That was on the DJI geofence map?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
because you're right in the runway of number 2. So
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and you're probably only
even though it's not shown on there, they know it's there.
You're probably only the planes are probably coming in at 350 feet right there too.
Yeah, about that. But there was no planes today.
Yeah, but if there's an emergency, there would
still,
be.
Still pretty quiet, I'll tell you.
Hardly any planes any day lately.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're saying it's real easy to get your approvals from Nav Canada right now because there's so little going on. Are you finding that too, Caitlin?
Yeah, well, my husband is an Air Canada pilot, at least until tomorrow. So he's been home lots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he getting layoff or what?
Yeah.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, but such is the industry right now. We're lucky to be employed up to this point. So
yeah. Well,
Streets will be the first ones to come back. So
yeah.
If there's time, there is one thing that I wanted to ask of you guys and anyone that's listening too.
Sure.
It's a hypothetical, but there's been some interest that I've seen in groups and just chatter for flying in provincial parks or areas that are kind of managed by the provincial park system. And if there were like designated locations or designated times, like kind of geofenced areas that you could fly your drone? Like it would be restricted to those spots at provincial parks. Do you think that's something that would be helpful or like be of interest or like drive tourist activity if that were to be something that existed?
I absolutely, I
100%.
know it would. But question is, are you referring strictly to BC parks or all provincial parks?
I think it would be going by province, but be looking to find a forward-thinking province to be able to initiate something like that. So
Yeah.
I
know people here would absolutely go gaga over it because I get that all the time in the group. Isn't that right, gentlemen? It's like I want to fly at Banff. Can I fly at Banff? Oh, that's a national park. You can't. Well, how about this part? No, you can't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was thinking it'd be kind of neat, especially if it was like it enables you to get out there and kind of experience those things, and also still has a little bit of, if it's permitted, like you'd still need to apply to be able to show that you're legitimate to fly there, but kind of still have that like exclusivity along with it that makes it exciting for those that are going to do it anyway. But but yeah, okay, well that's good. And if
there would be a long waiting list to get on there.
Yeah, I bet. If anyone has any comments on that after this, if they're viewing this later, just send me a note on Facebook or to my email address. It's kate@coastaldrone.co. And just let me know, because it'd be something that be looking to encourage that process if that's something that has interest.
Yeah, that would be, really something. And it's funny because I find some of that's really absolutely ridiculous because some of our provincial parks where you can't fly are also recreational vehicle friendly areas. Mm-hmm. And it's well, we don't want drones flying there because you upset the wildlife. What, more than that 500 horsepower 4x4 that's ramming through the bush? Come on,
Yeah.
But yeah, some of it just doesn't make sense. And I understand, certain areas where it is really wildlife sensitive, but if you're allowing 4x4s in that area, then there's no reason why a drone shouldn't be allowed, Just my thoughts, but
yeah,
not only that, but
99% of people would agree with you there.
Not only that, but like myself, being photographer, just getting that type of scenery.
Mm-hmm.
2 thumbs up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good to know.
You go. Go get them, Kate. Go get them.
Yeah, we got your back, Kate.
Excellent. That's great.
Set it up.
Yeah, and as she said, anybody's got any comments, questions, or would like to show their support, send Caitlin a message, and I'm pretty sure that she might even respond. Who knows?
If you're lucky.
Yeah. Depends on whether or not the baby came.
Yeah, exactly. If it takes a little while, I'm either camping or dealing with a screaming infant. So.
So, anyways, anybody got anything else they'd care to add?
I don't think so. I think we're good.
I'm thinking we might do a group fly this weekend. If anybody's interested in that, probably I'm looking Sunday morning. It's a long weekend. I imagine there's going to be a lot of people headed out for the long weekend, but a few stragglers that remain. If you want to do a group fly, I'm probably going to announce it Saturday morning. So I want to see what the weather's going to be like for Sunday. And then I'll announce the location. I'm planning for Sunday morning around 9:30, and it's going to be in the Sybil Flats area. So just have kind of a heads up. So in the meantime, it's been great fun. And as always, Caitlin, thanks for dropping by and sharing your vast knowledge.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for your info.
Thanks.
Yeah.
As usual, Lonnie and Doug, nice to have my cohorts here. And in the meantime and in between time, we'll see you next week, folks.